This is the Pigskin preview presented by PrizePicks. I'm Nick Roush, and he's Adam Luckett, ready to give you all the locks you need before an exciting week of college football action. Week 3 is upon us, and Luckett, I know some people are kind of hating on the games. I love the weeknight games. I love the weeknight games so much. I'm a little worried because I'm with the public for tonight's game with Texas State hosting Arizona State, hosting a Power 4 team, and the money went from Texas State being a 2.5, 3-point dog. Now they're a 2.5-point favorite. I got them as a 1-point dog. A lot of movement there, but I like the Bobcats in this spot against Sparky, who's I watched some of that game last week against Mississippi State. They can run the damn ball. They can't do a whole lot else. So I'm fired up. A lot of folks still have Amazon Prime on with Bills Dolphins. Two screens. This is a 2-screen sort of night for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I think Thursday, Friday, good slate, and then I think Saturday noon and even 3:30 I think are good slates. I think it really lightens up at night at the 7:30 window. But most people that watch this, their attention will be somewhere else on one specific game when that arrives. So I think it's not a bad slate. Like there's plenty of action there. I don't think there's the marquee games, but there's plenty of good games. There's some potential upsets that could possibly play out, and you never know when the Northern Illinois Notre Dame shocker is going to hit. So I think it's a fine, solid college football week, but I think what people want is going to kick off next week when we start seeing a lot of conference games.
Yeah, this is the last week where you still have a lot of non-conference games, a lot of big point spreads. Tennessee's a 49-point favorite at home. That's a huge number. Alabama traveling to Wisconsin, 16.5. I don't know about you. I want no part in that, but I know some people, they'll do the sort of pick 'em leagues where you have to pick something.
That's a popular teaser bet too.
Yeah.
Bama, Wisconsin.
If I had to, I think
that kind of thing.
I feel like I'd have to take Bama, but that's a game I want no part of. We were listening to Bama USF on the way home. It went from a 2-point game, switched it over to another game, and we turned it back on, and they had 42 points in an instant. And even though Wisconsin is clearly better, there is something about this game just kind of gross. And I don't know. I don't want any part of it. Do you lean either way for that one?
Yeah, I like the matchup for Bama, but they're like 0-5 in their last 5 road openers against the spread. So trend-wise, it's a stay away for me. But if I had to pick a side, I like Bama there. Feels like one that if Wisconsin hangs around and then Bama pulls away late.
I can't. There's part of me too that when you get hurt by a team, you have to stay away because you can't let them hurt you again. And that's how I feel with South Carolina, LSU. I know a lot of Kentucky fans are still very down from that South Carolina loss. It feels like LSU should be. I mean, they actually have the tackles that can block those edges, but with the weird forecasts and game day, and that place pretty juiced up, I got to stay away. Even though I would think you'd have to lean towards LSU as basically a touchdown favorite there.
Yeah, this game might show up in the column on Saturday.
Interesting.
It's a really good LSU matches up really well because of their 2 tackles, because of the way they can pass protect. And then we still haven't really seen much from South Carolina's offense, even through 8 quarters. Like they've essentially scored 3 non-offensive touchdowns this year, Nick, with the 2 strip sacks from Dylan Stewart that set up goal-to-goal drives, and then the pick 6 on Saturday, and then another one of their scores. They got the ball at the Kentucky 35 and kicked the field goal. So we're still not seeing much from their offense, and everything they got, two of their drives came directly because of busted coverages in the Kentucky game. So I still, LSU's got big questions on defense, but I still have doubts about the South Carolina offense. And I think they match up well with South Carolina's biggest strength, which is that edge pass rush. So that seems like a good place to play that road favorite to me in my eyes.
One game that's I mentioned the swings in the Thursday night game and that line. There was a big swing in the TCU line as well, where TCU playing Central Florida. That's probably the best game on the night slate. They opened as 3-point favorites, and now they're 2.5-point dogs to the Golden Knights. And play Gus at your own risk, but that is it could end up being a fun for us. We'll probably be going back and watching the highlights, but I'll keep my head on a swivel because suddenly the Big 12 was always pretty wide open, but the teams at the top, Utah and Oklahoma State looked very vulnerable. They kind of needed some things
Cam
to go their
Rising
way.
is hurt again.
Yeah. What year is it?
And then, Tulane had Kansas State on the ropes. Arizona struggled with Northern Arizona last week.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of what'll be about like 10 or 11 Big 12 games that, that's really interesting. We should pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Because that conference could go anyway. And there'll be more as the season goes on. UCF, if you haven't watched them yet, they're going to be extremely run heavy. They'll probably have the best rushing offense in college football this year. You got KJ Jefferson at quarterback, and they got like 3 really good tailbacks. Good line, and then Malzahn scheming that up. And then TCU, defense is still a big question mark for them, but they're going to score points this year with Josh Hoover at quarterback and Kendall Briles calling plays. And it's going to both teams run tempo offenses. Like, that's going to be a fun game, I think, to watch in Fort Worth. They could really go any direction. From my side, should UCF be laying points on the road in this kind of matchup between teams that look pretty evenly matched? That's where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
So I would play the Frogs, but that's not going to be on my menu this week. But that will be a fun game.
I would like to share a stat with you before Auburn hosts New Mexico as a 28.5-point favorite. In Hugh Freeze's in his last 18 games, he's been a double-digit favorite 9 times. He's lost outright 5 times. 5 of 9 he's lost outright as a double-digit favorite. And I know, it's only been a couple of them. I guess that's only a second one at Auburn, but yikes. That is, big yikes. Big time yikes.
Yeah. Auburn, Nick, they've had, I believe, 3 losing seasons in a row. Same amount as Florida. Like, most people talk about Florida, it seems like, but Auburn's also got that long losing streak. Just where are they heading in this year? They've got a lighter schedule than Florida, so they'll probably get it turned around. But Freeze has been very bad as kind of a big favorite, but he's also been great as, the 2 times. He's been great as a dog. Like, Liberty went in and beat Arkansas on the road. One year he was there. And then last year he had Georgia and Alabama both on the ropes in Jordan-Hare Stadium. So he's got a little fade him as a favorite, take the value with him as a dog kind of trend going for him.
One more game before we move into our picks that I wanted to mention. It's Ole Miss is a 22.5-point favorite in their first real game of the year. They're going on the road to sleepy Winston-Salem. 22.5-point favorite. Ole Miss is scoring. Can you guess how many incomplete passes Jackson Dart has thrown through 2 games?
Is it as many as total points they've allowed? Because it's not a ton of total points they've allowed.
Very close. 7 incomplete passes in 2 games, and I think they've given up 6. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
3 points in each game, I'm pretty sure.
And
yeah,
I mean, Wake Forest has a pulse though.
They will move the ball. Yeah.
Right. Like I think they'll score some points as well. Do you look for Ole Miss to score more than 42.5? Is that the angle here?
Yeah, this one was one I looked at the over because I think Wake will be able to score some points on them. But I'm not sure Wake has a defense to stop. So, yeah, I think Ole Miss probably gets pretty close to 40 there. So that wouldn't surprise me. Ole Miss is one of these teams, Nick. I would clump them with Missouri. I mean, Georgia's a different animal because they've done it before and proved it. But Ole Miss and Missouri haven't given up a touchdown yet. on defense. These are not typically one of the better defenses in the programs in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So how much is that inflated by the schedule?
Right.
That's what we're going to find out here in these next couple of weeks. We're going to find out more about Ole Miss these next 2 weeks because Wake Forest and Georgia Southern can both go on offense.
Oh,
so that'll
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the Ole Miss defense. Where Missouri, Saturday, and we're going to get to this game a little bit. Saturday's a big test because they've looked great on defense, but just how good are they? And then offensively, they're not passing the football very well through 2 games. And that was supposed to be a strength for them.
One more game that didn't make the cut for me, but I had to think twice about. Vandy's laying 10.5 points. Vandy is a double-digit favorite. And I kind of get why. I mean, Georgia State, doesn't score at all. I don't know. If things go well tonight with Texas State, I might feel a froggy and ride with Diego Pavia because they have been scoring a lot of points this year. And I'd also like to add that I'm cheering for points tonight. I'm not, you know me, Luckett. I love unders. We're going to have a lot of unders tonight, but 48's the total and Buffalo, Miami, and Dolphins got to get this offense going at some point. So yeah, let's points. Everybody, points. Speaking of the NFL, I hit a PrizePicks combo. I hit one. We went less on Rodgers and Rodgers and Brock Purdy, and we cashed a ticket on Monday Night Football. It felt good, Luckett. It felt really good to get a winner with PrizePicks.
I'm proud of you.
I feel bad when I'm sharing them and they're not coming home for me. But that was the start of something good. We're going to get things rolling with PrizePicks, the best place to play your daily fantasy sports. It's pretty simple. You download the app and you see the different squares. They've got various numbers and you just pick more, you pick less. And it's fun for standalone games like tonight, where you can mix and match between different games. They also have, for every week in September with Caleb Williams, you can get an extra square with all he has to do is throw one passing yard and you hit, and that helps you rack up the odds in your favor. You can win. You can win up to 10x on some of your selections. But the other night, I also had Greg Kittle in there, and it pushed at 4. But I still won some money with the push. So PrizePicks, they're going to hook you up. We're going to hook you up when you download the PrizePicks app. You sign up, go to the website, prizepicks.com, use code KSR, and you'll receive $50 once you pay $5 in lineups. So go download the PrizePicks app, use code KSR, and get a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. Look at this week's selections. I went back to your guy, Corey Connor. They're playing Miami of Ohio, a little revenge match. More than 88.5 rushing yards. We've got Jackson Dart, more than 320. He's
That's a lot.
It's a lot. He's thrown like 350 without even really trying. The one that I really like too, Demi Sumo Karmbe, 24.5 rushing yards. I know they could.
That.
Yeah, Kentucky hasn't ran the ball. Like Chris Rodriguez had a really bad day a couple of years ago. But Kentucky, I think they're going to be able to run the ball against Georgia.
Yeah, just a lot of that's workload.
Yeah.
Kentucky's down to 2 scholarship quarterbacks. The offensive line is struggling. They've got to kind of protect, I think, their pass pro and their quarterback. So I think you're going to see them run the football or make a commitment to run the ball. So I'd envision him getting somewhere between 15 and 18 carries on Saturday, Nick. If he gets 15, that's 2 yards per carry to get you home.
Yeah.
So, I like that.
Whether you use all of those combinations or not, I would consider Demi Sumo Karmbe more than 24.5 when you play with PrizePicks. Remember, download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com and use code KSR. You'll receive $50 once you pay $5 in lineups. Mr. Luckett, let's get to this week's selections. Up first, I'm going with the Friday night. the Friday night showdown. All the trends with Kansas State. They're 11-3 ATS as a home favorite in their last 14 games. Kleinman is 30-15-1 against the spread against conference foes at Kansas State. It's better than any other coach since he was hired. Even though this isn't a conference game, I know they're in the same conference. They already had this scheduled. So it's a non-conference conference game. We're going to have a couple of those weird ones. But I just like Kansas State. They're an efficient team. Like that, they aren't as flashy. But for me, a lot of this is picking the well-coached team to perform well against a two-man show with Fafita and McMillan. Because, I mean, they're both studs, but I just trust Kleiman to shut that down. I don't know if it's going to be the highest scoring affair, but I can just see, getting a couple stops, and then they just go on a 10-play drive and start slowly sucking the life out of Arizona, slowly but surely, and a rowdy little apple on Friday night. So I got Kansas State at -7. You might have to pay for the hook at a few other places to get it down to 7. But give me the Purple Wildcats to win one of only 2 top 25 matchups we have this weekend.
Yeah, there's multiple books still with it at 7, so you can shop around a little bit there. Kansas State, 11-3 ATS as a home favorite in their last 14 outings. I'm kind of with you on this one. I think there's a little bit of fraud warning with Arizona. I know Fafita and McMillan is like this dangerous combo. But new coach, Nick, do you know Dino Babers is Arizona's offensive coordinator?
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and then you look at their first 2 weeks, like New Mexico had them in an absolute dogfight there until like McMillan just went off there at the end.
He had like 300 yards receiving.
In the after dark window. And then Northern Arizona is a good FCS team, but they had them in a dogfight.
Mm-hmm.
Now Kansas State kind of workmanlike first week, and then were outgained by Tulane over 100-something yards. So they had to kind of earn that. I would be more willing to roll with K-State in this matchup. Specifically, usually the home dog principle on weekday nights, but home favorite is typically a good side to be on. So I would roll with K-State here, but I will say I kind of expected a little bit more out of K-State to start the year, and they haven't done that yet. It was a team I had to play off.
Because Avery Johnson he's still settling in as a thrower. Yeah, he's been fine. But he's still settling in. And you know what? This could be a nice opportunity as I'm here. I'm legit. Here's that. It took some guts to come back from that deficit on the road against a G5 team. And so I think showing that resolve there, now you got a top 25 team coming at home. I think they're going to be fired up and ready to rock and roll. Luckett, what do you have for your first pick?
Yeah, going to the big house. Arkansas State at Michigan, under 47.5. We've seen 8 quarters of this Michigan offense, and they struggle to run the football. In the passing game, it's a big work in progress. Receivers are an issue. I also think defensively, the game kind of got away from them there in the second quarter against Texas, but I still think this is a top 10 defense. So bad offense, top 10 defense, play the under. That's what I'm going to do here. Offensive line coach, they're going to want to shorten the game. I'm not going to overthink this, Nick. Arkansas State should have issues moving the football, but then again, Michigan is not some explosive play juggernaut on offense. They're going to have to grind to score points. So I like the under in this one. I think this gets home as long as we avoid the disastrous non-offensive touchdown. So give me Arkansas State, Michigan under 47.5.
I kind of think the offense, and particularly the running game, I know they had to rebuild everything, and the offensive line is kind of working through some stuff, but it feels like they should just be able to dominate in the trenches. And I don't think they'll do the Sharon Moore, we're just not going to pass it in the second half like they did against Penn State. But 22.5 doesn't feel like a whole lot of points. I mean, I think you should be able to get that one home too. But if you look, it's under, maybe just tease that alt line down to 16.5 or something to try to juice up a little parlay or something like that. That might be a way to go to try to get you, plus 150 or something along those lines. So that's feels like Michigan isn't getting any credit at all because they got their ass kicked by one of the best teams in the country. But they're still. I know Harbaugh's going and it's a new regime, but
we're still in wait and see mode with this Michigan team, and then I believe they got USC coming in the Big House next week. So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how people kind of evaluate Sharon Moore in this first season.
You've got one under. I've got another under, and this is a hold your nose. I cannot believe I made a wager on this game, but boy, do we have two really, really bad offenses and some pretty good defenses. Air Force and Baylor under 41.5. Here's some numbers for you, Mr. Luckett. EPA, offensive EPA for Air Force, 133. Baylor, 121. Offensive success rate, Air Force, 130. Baylor, 126. Defensive success rate, Air Force, 38. Baylor, 7. I know you relying too heavily on stats early is not the wisest idea, but efficiencies are measured. This is like on a play-by-play basis. So you're measuring every single play. And I know it's early, but these two teams have not looked great at all. And I don't know how they score points unless there's some sort of yakety sacks situation here. So I'm going to have a hold your nose under 41.5. And I don't know. I might be a sicko for this, but just I'm going to try to squeeze the juice out of some early season unders for as long as I can, Mr. Luckett.
Yeah, Baylor under cashed for us pretty easily last week. Baylor at Utah, and that even included a kick 6 by the home team.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Dave Aranda's taking over defense. They've got like 10 returning starters. So they'll be pretty salty on that side of the ball. Pace of play is going to be big. Pace of play is going to be big here for you, Nick, with Air Force plays. So that's a low number in college football, but
yeah,
there's some signs there that's the under looks like the right side.
Let's just hold our nose and get this one home. And besides, military unders. You know, you got to feel good when you're playing a military academy under. What's your second pick, Mr. Luckett?
Yeah, the game I alluded to earlier, Boston College at Missouri. I'm going to take the big underdog here, plus 16.5. Again, back to our win total show. Boston College was a team I really liked entering the year. Good coach, I think. I like Thomas Castellanos, their quarterback. I like some of their skill talent weapons, and their offensive line has impressed through 2 games. And Missouri hasn't been challenged yet. So this will be the first time we've seen Missouri get challenged. You know, how good is this defense really? I have my doubts about them pitching 2 shutouts if there's some top-notch unit. And then again, Nick, offensively, I believe Brady Cook is averaging under 7 yards per attempt passing the football. And this early in the year last year, that's really how they made their mark was throwing the football. Yeah, he's under 7 yards per attempt. Luther Burden has only got 7 receptions, less than 10 yards per reception. Their top 3 receivers are all 3 under 12 yards per reception. So they've got some issues in the passing game, and so if they're not being super explosive in the passing game, to me it feels like it's going to be hard for them to cover the 16.5 here with Boston College. This will be Boston College's second road game.
Yeah, that part's huge for me. Is like just they're not going to be. They're coming with their head spinning.
I think BC will find ways to run the football. Well, the QB element is huge here. Castellanos' legs. So I like them hanging in with this big number. So give me Boston College plus 16.5.
Yeah, and I think you had a stat too about Drinkwitz being pretty bad at home as a home favorite.
We will pull that up in just a second here.
Yeah.
Missouri 6-10-1 ATS in their last 17 as a home favorite under Drinkwitz. Now, with that said, they've covered 2 in a row with what they did the first 2 weeks, but they were 4-10-1 entering this season.
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal. That's one that I think a lot of folks might get behind with you on that. Should be a fun one. Did not anticipate Boston College, Missouri being a top 25 matchup. The 6 and
you know how the early season goes, man. We don't know who's good yet. You need we need 4 games to figure out who's good and who's not. And that's where we're at. Like, you know.
this is one of those that part of me is, I don't want to say like sometimes you think you're on a bet, you don't make it, and then you're chasing it. This is an example of that, but I don't feel like I'm falling into that trap by riding with Tulane plus 13.5 at Oklahoma. And this is it somewhat of a play knowing that, like, I think John Summerall will get his guys up and they'll play close against a Power 5 team? Yes. It's more so of a fade on Oklahoma's offense. And I just hope that I'm not too late to jump on that bandwagon because Jackson Arnold has really struggled from the start. That it's that they've won. They won convincingly in week 1, but it was like a slobber knocker getting there. They had a bunch of turnovers in the first half. And then was it Houston or SMU they played last week? I get those two mixed up.
Houston.
I mean, that was a game right down to the wire. And Houston had gotten shellacked by UNLV the week prior. So, I mean, Jackson Arnold has 315 passing yards in 2 weeks. 19 completions for 174 yards, 17 completions for 141 yards. I know Tulane's defense hasn't been great. They've kind of been the anti of what you saw from Summerall at Troy, where Troy would win with defense and run the football with Vidal, who's now with the 49ers. Now they've got a quarterback who can sling it around, who I think is good enough to be able to score some, maybe not a lot against Preston Bowman and Billy Bowman, right?
Billy Bowman.
Billy Bowman's the safety
Danny
and then the
Stutzman.
linebacker. Stutzman, yeah. Like those are two future pros who are really good, but I still like the quarterback to be able to sling around the rock enough, score some points. I don't think they're going to be shaky in this atmosphere. And some might think that they're like reeling because they had a lead and they let it slip away, but I think they're going to be pissed off and know that they can hang with these Power 5 programs. So shockingly, I was shocked to look at that. Some like 80% of the money, 80% of the bets were on Oklahoma here. I don't know how you could lay Oklahoma to cover a 2-touchdown spread right now, just with the way this offense has been performing. I'll look up their points per play, or their yards per play, but it has been bad, very bad.
Yeah, Troy lost 2 years ago. Lost on a Hail Mary to App State. They came back the next week and won a big conference game. I can't remember who the opponent was in 2022. So Summerall has gotten his team off the mat quickly. And that was his first Troy team he was able to do in like the first month of the season. So I think that's important to remember here. The under is something I'm looking at in this game. 2 defensive head coaches.
Yeah.
You know, Tulane showed some more explosiveness, I think, on offense than Oklahoma at this point. The Seth Luttrell play calling experience through 8 quarters has not been very good.
No.
For Oklahoma, they're not running the football either. Like you mentioned, the passing numbers, they're having a hard time running the football too.
4.9 yards per play, 108th in FBS.
Yeah, so the under is a side I'm looking at in this game. So when I say under, I typically like that, especially if the spread's more than a touchdown. Typically want to side with a dog there.
Luckett, your final pick. I think we've got another under.
We do. A little short price here in West Lafayette. Notre Dame at Purdue. Under 45.5. Speaking of bad passing games, Nick, Notre Dame still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. They've played 8 quarters of football.
Wow. Maybe Notre Dame should quit taking transfers from the ACC. I mean, come on. You not figured it out yet, Marcus Freeman?
They're struggling to move the football, but I think they have a top 10 defense. Meanwhile, Purdue has only played once. They had a bye week. They played one of the worst teams in FCS. So we don't know much about them, so I'm sticking with my preseason 100% prognostication, and I thought Purdue would be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten this year. I think Notre Dame's defense will probably put this air raid offense in a straitjacket for most of the afternoon, and I think they'll probably grind it out on offense. And 2 years ago, Marcus Freeman lost a home game to Marshall, came back the next week as a double-digit home favorite against Cal, won that game, I believe, 24-17. You can look that up. It came well short of 40 points, 45 points in that one. I think we see something similar in this game. So give me Notre Dame Purdue under 45.5.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who it's a great bounce back spot as a gambler, but I don't know why you would. What about this offense would make you think that they can win a game by double digits? It was one thing to do that against Texas A&M. It was a completely different thing to do that against Northern Illinois. And you were correct, 24-17 back in 2022. Yeah. So that would get you home, and it might get you home in West Lafayette. So there's our picks for this week. We're middling right now. This is the week we turn things around. We get hot. Luckett will have more picks in the column.
I had the two chokes in this best bets last week with Cincinnati and Iowa.
Yeah, those were
two teams that had fourth quarter leads and just choked it away. So that stuff's going to happen.
The Arkansas one just killed me because the only way you can lose that is if they get the 2-point conversion too in overtime, and of course they did. You couldn't just make the field goal in the first overtime and win by 3. Cowboys, Come on, pokes. That was as brutal of a beat as I can remember. But we're turning things around in week 3. Maybe the Cats will turn things around. Like I took the 24.5 with Kentucky. I think we're going to see a motivated team. They're much better than what they showed, and I know Georgia's Georgia, but I don't know. I just got a feeling that thing will get ugly, and Kentucky will find a way to keep it close enough to cash a ticket and cover against Georgia for the 5th time in 6 seasons.
Yeah, I think you could definitely see that. And the under streak, I think, in the series got broken last year. I think it had
a 50 burger. That'll do it.
So I wouldn't be surprised they get back on track here in this year's meeting.
Well, if you want to see more of us, we'll be chatting at the Cat's Corner under the Revel XP10 at about 6 o'clock. I was telling people 5:30 earlier. That's because I thought it was a 7 o'clock kick. I thought the ABC games were at 7, not 7:30. So you've got a 7:30 kick. Catwalk's at 5:30. After the catwalk, you can come see us under the tent. Even if it's raining, we'll have shelter. We'll give you shelter. So, yeah, come see about it before the Cats take on the number 1 team in the country.